comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So it was my son's first day at school today, and I have no idea where the fuck we've just sent him. That school has no fucking idea what's going on. So we take him at 8:30 in the morning. We got told he doesn't need any books, which is weird for a school. You would think you need some books or at least a pen. But we got told he doesn't need anything, so we take him into the front office area, and they're like, where are his books? Where are his fucking books? We're like, you told us he doesn't need any books. They're like, all right, go buy some books. And we're like, all right, we'll buy some books. So we went to the counter, paid for fucking a bunch of books, gave it to them, gave the receipt to them, and they're like, sorry, we don't have any books left. We don't have any books left. You're going to have to get them tomorrow. And we're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they're just like, we have no books. What do you want us to do? Get some books out of nowhere? They're such arrogant cunts, these school cunts. So my son's in the office with us, and we're like, all right, where does he go without his books? And they're like, just send him through that door and he'll figure it out himself. Literally, that's what happened. We pushed him through this fucking door and we watched him. And there's no one else in the fucking room. And they're like, just send him up the stairs. And the stairs are like miles away. He's just in this wide expanse of nothingness. He's like, where the fuck am I going? We're like, where the fuck is he gone? No one was around. So anyway, my wife's almost in tears because she's seen her little boy go to school for the first time. And she's getting all emotional. I'm like, fuck, this is sick. We've got like 8 hours without him before we have to be back at 3:30 to pick him up. It just feels like the whole day is opened up now. Not that he was spending too much time inside with us anyway. He was out in the street, I don't know, playing with strangers and shit most of the time. But now we don't even have to worry about our negligence. Although the way this fucking school is run, he's probably safer out in the streets. So anyway, after a beautiful, quiet, delightful day at home, 3:30 comes around. We're like, we better pick this little fucker up. And we're both speculating how his day went. I was thinking he was going to take to it pretty well. My wife was like, he's going to fucking hate it. Anyway, we get to the front gate and there's like 400 Indian fucking parents waiting out the front for their kids to come through. And we're like, where is our little fucker? And he was nowhere to be seen. And then my wife asked the security guy, she's like, where are the grade ones come out? And he's like, the grade ones don't come out here. They come out around the corner. So we had to drive around the corner. No one fucking told us this. We get to the fucking grade 1 gate and there's no one there. There's like one fucking teacher chilling there. And we're like, hey, where the fuck is our kid? And the teacher's like, oh, you're late. He's waiting in the office. We're like, what do you mean we're late? We got told 3:30. And they're like, no, for grade 1, it's 2:40. And they're like, oh, we'll just go grab him. No problem. And they grab him and he's walking back and he's almost in tears. We're like, oh, fuck. Today didn't go well then. And he jumps in the car and he's like, I thought you two had abandoned me. I thought you were never, ever going to come back ever in the whole entire world. And he's almost crying because he was just sitting there in this weird fucking school on his first day for an hour after everyone else left, thinking his fucking parents weren't ever going to come back. And if it was up to me, I wasn't going to come back. I've seen Slumdog Millionaire. Kids can do it. They turned out all right. He won $1 million. Rupees, which ends up being like $50,000. But besides thinking his parents had abandoned him, he loved it. Thank fuck. But it doesn't really matter. He's going there regardless if he likes it or not. But it helps if he likes it. At least it won't be a problem. I never really liked school. I remember my first day at school. I remember it clearly. My mum dropped me off and I got thrown into this room. I was late. Mum and the teacher spoke briefly. Her name was Mrs. Whittles. She has to be dead now. She must have been like 70 when I was fucking in grade 1. They had a chat and I was like a shy kid. And they're like, he's going to be fine. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be fine. Anyway, my mum bailed and Mrs. Whittles just said, go play. Go play with some cunt. And just went back to whatever shit she was doing. And I was walking around. There was groups of people. And they all looked like they knew each other from somewhere. And I was like, fuck, I'm not going into that group. I can't go into that group. I walked over to a small group and just stood next to them for a little while, and they just ignored me, and I'm like, nah, that's not going to work. And then I saw another kid just by himself working on some blocks, doing some serious work on the blocks. So I'm like, all right, that kid's by himself as well. I like to play with blocks too. Let's go over to him. So I went over and stood next to him, and I think I was like, or like, hey. And he looks over his shoulder and he's like, all right, jump in, give us a hand. I need you to work the blue blocks. I'll be on the red blocks, you stay on the blue blocks. And I'm like, fuck yeah, all right, sweet. What's your name? And he's like, Julian. And I'm like, Julian what? Julian Slaney. That was my first friend on my first day at school. Julian Slaney. And we were fucking tight for like 3 weeks until I realized, fuck, I think Julian Slaney is the fucking snotty kid. I think my best friend is the fucking snotty cunt. We still remained kind of friends, but he was the snotty-nosed kid. He was always playing in dirt, and he was pretty autistic with those blocks too. But I always loved him, even all the way up until grade 3 when he moved schools. I was like, Julian, it's sad to see you go, mate. You'll always be here, mate, in my heart as my first friend. He didn't even know what the fuck I was talking about. But his mum and my mum became friends, so I'd see him every now and then before. I think my mum got drunk and called her a cunt or something like that. That rings some sort of bell. Anyway, he's now at school. We'll see what sort of fucking Adrians he starts hanging around with now. And just as a side note, Australia won the World Cup. New Zealand, Jesus Christ. New Zealand's whole fucking cricket team is one batsman, Kane Williamson, and one bowler, Trent Boult. And everyone else around those two are just fucking park cricketers. It was a humiliating defeat. Anyway, let's move on to this week's Ask Boyle. It's Ask Boyle time. Alright, this week's Ask Boyle was sent in through the Patreon. If you would like to help support the podcast, £1 a month. It might not be a lot to you, but it means a lot to me. Join the Patreon. The links are in my social media bios, or just message me and I'll send you the link myself. So let's get to it. So this one was sent in by B. Bursteeg, all the way over there in the fucking Netherlands. A little bit of a change of pace. Usually it's Australia, the US, England, Ireland, Canada. If you're from a different country than that, send in your questions, send in your fucked up Friday stories. Fuck, I just remembered a guy from Serbia sent me something and I forgot to do it. Anyway, I'll have to find that. Let's get to this week's question. So my man Bursteeg, he asked this question. He says, what's actually giving me pause right now is the following question. Why are you and me not able to handle alcohol like most people are, or at least seem to? I have a very fortunate life with a great job, a beautiful girl, and amazing friends. But somehow I still can't manage to get a grip in terms of keeping alcohol in my life. Well, Bursteeg, you have come to the right place. So for starters, it doesn't really matter what you have externally if you haven't got your internal shit sorted out. Before I gave up drinking, I had a decent job that I didn't completely hate at the time. I had a beautiful wife, I had a kid, but I was a complete fucking mess. And more or less, I was willing to torch it all to get drunk. So kind of what your question is, which it's going to be difficult for me to answer, is what is going on internally for you that makes you want to booze it up and say fuck it all. All right, let's say you've got all this stuff and your childhood was good. You have no reason to complain about your childhood. Nothing fucked up happened to you. Your parents are sweet, you're educated, you all that sort of shit. Then what is your reason internally to be fucked up? I think this, and I'm really talking about myself here, but I think some people's dark side, their shadow, sits a lot closer to the surface than other people's might. So for me to be a good person does not come fucking naturally or easily. So I need to constantly keep that shit in check. It's an effort, and I hope eventually it becomes easier and more natural just to be a good person. But yeah, my dark side is bubbling away pretty close to the surface. So what happens when you drink is the gates from fucking hell swing open and those demons come fucking flying out. And because you spend so much time trying to keep that shit in check, when the fucking gates open, it's party time and you just fucking relax and you fucking dance with the devil, baby. And then once it's all said and done, once you stop, that's where the fear comes from. You know, after you've been on a big fucking bender and you wake up at the end of it and you've just got the fucking fear. That's what the fear is. You're like, fuck, I danced a little too close with the devil and I enjoyed it a little bit too much. You get a little bit too in touch with your dark side, which is not a good thing. It's all a balance. You need that dark side. You need to realize there's darkness inside you, but you need to balance it out. You can't become all dark side. Everything is just one big fucking balancing act between light and dark, heaven, hell, fear, love. You just need to pay very close attention to what you're doing. And when you're boozing like a maniac, you don't really give a fuck enough to pay attention. Anyway, B-Dog, I hope that fucking rambling horse shit fucking helped you. Thanks for the question. If you're enjoying the podcast, share it around with your friends. That's the main thing I would love for you all to do, is share it with your friends. Obviously that and join the Patreon. Share it around with your friends and join the Patreon. All right, that's it for tonight. I'll see you the fuck later.